Okay, I think I'm live. Hello, hello. Just really hopped on for a quick one. Um, yeah, I just felt like seeing what's happening on here. See if we could. Anybody wants to chat? Have any questions? Literally, just see what happens. It's pretty late here. It's like um, 22, 22 midnight in South Africa. Um, yeah, so just finished Angelo's retreat on Sunday. It was incredible. Yeah, I guess I'll just start off talking a little bit about retreat. I highly recommend. Um, there's just something really powerful about doing a meditation retreat, especially if it's with a teacher that really resonates. Just giving yourself that space where you can't distract yourself anymore. It's so different to just trying to meditate a lot during um, normal life. I've done it so many times where I have a lot of space where I'm not busy with a lot, so I'll kind of maybe say to myself, you know what, today I'm gonna commit to meditating like, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours. Just why not? Um, but if I'm not in that retreat setting, it's so easy to, I don't know, just do an hour or two and then decide that's enough. And it's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. Like that is enough. Um, but if you really want to take this deep and give yourself that space where there's nothing else to do, that commitment of a retreat is just so powerful. So yeah, I really wanted to share that because I have had the space and opportunity where I could meditate for, or not even just meditate, just sit and do that inner work that I'm always talking about on this channel, that all my content is about. Um, you could easily have the space to do it, but when you're not in that commitment to fully nothing else to do, it's so easy to just postpone or do a little bit and stuff. So there really is something powerful about making that commitment when there's no distractions, and you'll really come into contact with some stuff that you wouldn't have come into contact with otherwise when you can still distract. So um, yeah, I wanted to mention that because it's really something worth looking into if you want to, if it's available to you. And it just, yeah, once you make that commitment to kind of, when there's other people doing the same kind of thing, it's just so much easier to really let go of all the distractions and be like, this is what I'm doing right now. um, and you'll you'll be able to take this a lot deeper than you often would on your own. I mean, not to say that you can't just set aside a day to do 2 or 3 or 4 hours of whatever the work it feels like you need to do. That's totally, that's great, and it's a lot of the time that's what you got to do. Um, but it can just be a great space to really take this deep. Is if you have access to that kind of opportunity, I would definitely recommend looking into it. It's very powerful. So yeah, I guess just coming out of most recent retreat, wanted to share that, I suppose. So yeah, other news from my side of the world is I'm actually flying to Croatia tomorrow. Got all my shit together, so um, yeah, flying to Frankfurt and then Croatia. So that's exciting. Um, so yeah, I will soon be in Europe, no longer in South Africa, but still also be the same time zone. So yeah. Hey JD, how you doing, man? I'm good. I'm good. How was the retreat? I think you said you were doing it. Yeah, I loved it, man. That was so powerful. Nice. Okay, I was about to ask, yeah, was that your first one? Okay, awesome. First one. Nice. Yeah, yeah, it really varies, I suppose. Anything can come up. Yeah. Yeah, for sure, dude. It's such a roller coaster. Um, but like I was actually just talking about a bit about retreat when I started the live about really making that commitment for a few days to really put away distractions and um, just make that commitment with other people and with someone kind of guiding you. It's so much more powerful and you can go a lot deeper than you could just saying, okay, today I'm going to do a couple of hours of inner work or something like that. I mean, you can do a lot of work on your own and just, that works, but um, just making that like really when you take away all distractions and you're left with nothing but what's here coming up in each moment, nowhere to go, nothing to do. And for me, one of the things with retreat, I specifically I came in contact with this on my 10-day retreat I did a couple months back. It's like when the difficult stuff is coming up, the first thing that often comes to mind is to look into the future. I'd be thinking like having a tough meditation session and some deep stuff coming up. And then there's nothing to run away to, even in the mind. So there's no distractions. And um, even thinking like, okay, just get to the end of this meditation retreat or this meditation session. Okay, maybe half an hour left. And then what at the end of that half an hour, it's like a 5 minute break, and then another hour of sitting, and then another hour of sitting, and then another hour of sitting, and then another 5 days of this. So there's nothing to be gained by running into the mind anymore. There's nothing to be gained by leaving this moment. Like there was no way I could distract myself from what I was feeling anymore. It's like this is really intense or uncomfortable, and there's nothing else. Like I just got to sit with it, and that can be so difficult, but so powerful as well. So that's yeah, that's one of my experiences with retreat that I'm like on both sides of it. I mean, it's so tough, but it's so powerful as well. That yeah, I mean, you just can't think yourself away from what you're feeling anymore. It's just like this is what's here, and you know you can think, okay, what about the next meditation session? Well, you know, the end of this meditation session, you're gonna feel it again, and but yeah, I mean, as Angela kind of pointed out so nicely on the retreat, is like if you always just kind of sit with what comes up, it's that's all you really need to do. Um, it will kind of pass, no matter how intense it is. Uh, it will, like the mind will say whatever it does. I can't feel this 1 second longer. I've never faced this kind of intensity before. Whatever. Um, if you just keep sitting with it, it will pass. And yeah, but yeah, as I've mentioned in some of my videos, it's like it's the kind of thing you have to really see for yourself. It's like, okay, you can hear that, but when it's there and it's feeling so intense, it doesn't feel like that. it's so easy. That story is like, okay, this is so horrible right now. You can't even think to not experiencing it anymore. But if you just remember, like, okay, this isn't going to be here forever. So what if I just sit with it? And again, yeah, it's so difficult to do that in normal day to day because um, it's so easy to just kind of cop out of it. Like so often, it's like, okay, this is really intense. I know I can just sit with this, even for myself. When like this is so clear to me experientially, it's often just so easy to like, okay, but I'm gonna go do something else. But yeah, that's the beauty of a retreat. Is like you just really put yourself in that place where there's nowhere to go, and then you can see these things that you wouldn't be able to see, and it can be such a great lesson in the end. Hey, Jim inside, welcome. Nice to have you on here. No way to run and facing things. You have mentioned this a lot, and I think I'm starting to understand this. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what it's about. But yeah, often you have to put yourself in a kind of situation like that where because you can kind of hear me saying that, but it's always about experiencing it. So that's why retreat is great because you really get a taste of that. Where what does it feel like when there's nowhere to run? 'Cause, yeah, I mean, we can always still find ways to distract ourselves, but eventually, if you're just honest with yourself, you start to see the own mechanisms of your mind, and then it's like, okay, well, what am I left to do when there's nowhere to run? Um, all I can do is face it, and then you can see that's all you ever needed to do. But it's really tough at first, for sure. But yeah, often those difficult sessions on retreat or on any moment, a difficult meditation session if you're just meditating daily at home. But if you just sit through it, that can be some of the most profound lessons is is learning what happens if I actually just for once don't turn away and distract myself and just let myself feel it. And often life will kind of put us in these situations where we like this was what this whole journey was for me was eventually I had no choice anymore where things just I was just so stuck and eventually I realized that all there was left to do was really just face that place I didn't want to go, those feelings that I was doing everything to distract myself from. And yeah, I mean, that was just such a blessing for me in the end because once I was forced to do that, it was like, it was such a great lesson. Like, oh my gosh, that's all I ever needed to do. What, what a blessing, but a tough one. Ajahn Shanti, one of my favorite teachers on all of this, talks about fierce grace. So like, it's absolute like grace, just that these the suffering leads to like once you kind of really open up to what these experiences are teaching you, um, you see that the real intense like whatever tragedy in your life that kind of upends your life, and throws like you something has to go really, how do I put it, like like something has to change in your life for you to like something has to kind of fall apart to open up the space to do this kind of stuff. And then looking back, you can see like, oh my gosh, it was actually grace that such a like difficult thing happened that opened up this path for me. But it can be fierce. Like it does not mean that it's just a little tap on the shoulder. It can be rough. So that really resonated for my experience with this whole thing was, I mean, it was fierce, but looking back from where I am now, um, it's just yeah, it's just so lucky that I ended up where I have, I suppose. It's beautiful. Um, what do you think about the theory that trauma is causing the symptoms? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a massive part of it. I think that's really what's kind of at the core. It definitely can be. I mean, it obviously depends person to person. Some people will feel like they haven't had a lot of trauma in their life and they're still here. And it's not necessarily trauma in the way we can often think about it, that it's, some massive traumatic events that happened, but it can just be like emotional repression, like minor stuff that builds up over time and stresses the nervous system, like things that happen and we just shove down, and we become so disconnected, and then yeah, it really has an impact on the nervous system and the body, and can then play out as these chronic symptoms and illnesses and trauma for sure. I mean, there's so much actual really good research on this. Um, the direct link between like trauma and nervous system conditions and that kind of stuff. Like that was kind of where I started once I started to open my mind a bit to recovery options and reading a little bit about, mind body connection, like psychosomatic kind of stuff where, like your past like social stuff really has an impact on like it's called like biopsychosocial kind of illnesses and stuff, where all of these kind of things really have an impact. So yeah, there's a really like I know I think it's Gabor Mate has some really he's a psychologist that's written some really good stuff in this area. And yeah, absolutely, that's what I would say is kind of like um, yeah, that's such a big part of this, like trauma in all shapes and forms, I suppose. Um, but yeah, as I said, like even if it feels like someone hasn't had massive trauma, like for me, I didn't have any massive things, but it was just kind of just stuff that built up over time, and um, not knowing at all how to work with emotion, and not even knowing like what emotion was, and that I was so emotionally distant and disconnected, and so it can be so stressful for the body as well when we're like really not being authentic to how we're truly feeling. Like that's such a key thing. Like if I can stress the first place to start for anybody on this journey of recovery and of, self-realization, or just, doing some deep inner work, and yeah, self-realization, awakening, the just getting to the roots of what's causing you to suffer, what's making life whatever. It would be authenticity, like being authentic with how you're feeling, no matter not what you want to be feeling or not what you think you should be feeling, just being completely honest with yourself. What are you feeling? Or, and allowing that that's okay. You don't have to force that to be another way. And when we consistently believe that it's not okay what we're feeling, or we force ourselves into environments where we can't we don't feel like we're allowed to feel what we're feeling, it's really stressful on the body and the nervous system, that kind of thing. So for me, that was a big part of this, was like not knowing what it meant to even be authentic, but growing up, and um, the few years before that all kind of unfolded into this whole big thing for me was a lot of just not feeling like I knew how to be authentic. Um, I wouldn't even use that word at the time. I wouldn't even have known to use it at all. But just looking back, I was, yeah, just so disconnected with my inner world of how I was feeling, I suppose. I don't know. And I can totally just see now how stressful that was on my nervous system. Just like always trying to, whatever I was feeling always felt wrong. And it was like, I need to be different. I need to be different. I need to. It's just so stressful, and it's like all the beliefs that form in our mind like is strongly linked to the way our nervous systems operate and the physical aspect of the body and all of that, and yeah, I mean, it can really stress out the body, and then combine that with all some stressful life events, um, and then a bit of a health crisis, and then you have the perfect storm for this whole thing to unfold. But then, as I was saying earlier, then it forced me to really look inward, which I wouldn't have done otherwise. So it was fierce grace. JDS says, in a weird way, trauma kind of shapes our worldview and beliefs, right? Yeah, you can say it like that for sure. I mean, yeah, it's all like past conditioning. That's kind of what trauma is as well. I mean, obviously, as I mentioned, you get like, we all have different severities of it. Like, for sure, some people have really real traumatic stuff that happens in their life, but yeah, and what you're saying like shapes our worldview and beliefs exactly. Like, um, it really that's kind of the way we process that trauma kind of forms an identity that is the filter through which we then view all other um, things in yeah, it really shapes our worldview, moment to moment experience of reality, in the sense that we're now that was such a intense event, and it felt so unsafe to a part of us that we now kind of, from a perspective of safety, the mind now filters the world in a certain way of um, those past events, for sure. So yeah, you often really need to go back into feeling and allowing another massive part of this whole thing. Like, if I can break it down into like being authentic, allowing yourself to feel what you need to feel, acknowledging whatever is here, whether you want it to be or not, and then going back and kind of inviting every part of ourselves and giving it some space and giving it some acceptance and giving it some acknowledgement and love and compassion is kind of what this is all about. Like, all of this inner work is not complicated. It's not there's not some complex fixing of stuff we need to do. It's kind of just like, can you feel what you need to feel, and can you feel what you don't want to feel, and just keep on allowing yourself to feel whatever's coming up. So, like, that's why I always say, like, start with allowing the resistance itself. If you're doing you feel you need to sit with what's coming up, and you try and feel into what don't you want to feel, and then you feel you don't like that, you want to distract yourself, then that's what you're feeling right now. So can you accept the part of you that is distracting? And then, if we're talking about trauma and past events, can and obviously I'm not like an expert on any of this. I'm kind of just sharing from my own experience, because like, if someone's gone through really radical traumatic events, I'm sure it can be super overwhelming to touch into that kind of stuff, and probably a wise idea to work with a psychologist or somebody that's um, a therapist or whatever, somebody that's um, can help you that process that kind of stuff, especially if it feels really too much to go back into that kind of thing. But most of the time, I would say, no matter, even if the mind's saying it's like overwhelming or whatever, just start with feeling what's here, and then just like, you can be your own therapist, or whatever. You can give yourself that support, that like that part of you that you don't want to feel. You can work with that part of you yourself. That's kind of that self-parenting, or that emotion work technique that I talk about, where it's just about speaking directly to the parts of us that we don't specifically want to feel? Can we can we acknowledge, I think, is most important at first. Just acknowledge this is what I'm feeling. Like, I'm struggling. I don't feel like I can do this. That can be such a difficult step to take, is to finally acknowledge that. Like, okay, I've been trying for so long to pretend that I've got to stay strong. I've got to, this and this and this. But eventually, when we just accept, like, I don't feel like I can do this. Whatever that feeling is, once we realize it's just something that needs to be felt. We don't need to, like, form an identity around that. Oh, I can't do this. I'm not going to recover. We don't need to form an identity around that. But we can acknowledge the part of us that just feels like it's completely overwhelmed, and then give it space. So yeah, always starting with what's here, and then just knowing that it's okay to feel all of that. Like, that's such a big part of it as well. Is like, there's nothing that it's not okay to feel. We can trust what we're feeling in each moment, and you can trust that you have the capacity to hold and feel whatever comes up, and as intense as it can be, if you just sit with it and acknowledge and accept, and yeah, give it space, talk directly to it, give it compassion. It can be surprising how, when we really just feel into that, it changes so much. German side, I feel with you. I also never felt authentic. Always felt fear to be not perfect, not good enough. Fears what the other were thinking about my person. Felt never safe. Exactly. That's exactly how it felt. And yeah, think of how stressful that is for the nervous system when we truly believe that. And then, as I said, throw in some other stressful things and some beliefs about health and illness, and it all just kind of boils out into this. And sometimes that's what we need to go back and work through this kind of stuff. Is, for me, this was kind of like my body saying stop. I wasn't listening to the rest of me that was struggling or whatever, just kind of pushing myself in every aspect, and until everything just said stop. And again, that stop was what I needed, but it had to come in a really intense form. And as you said, acknowledging those feelings, like those feelings that you mentioned, acknowledging that that's how we feel, and really feeling into that. Like, that can be some of the deep emotion work. Is what if I'm not good enough? We formed all these beliefs. Like, it's all this kind of social conditioning that we put. Like, there's no one person to blame for this. It's kind of, we all just reflect it to each other, because we come into this world, and then we learn from each other. Okay, I have to be good enough, and portray this image. But what if I'm not actually good enough? And what does that feel like? And what if I can feel that? Those kind of things can really get us in touch with these, because that's all of these identities we build, and these patterns of behavior, that keep us stuck, and all of these things is built on top of not wanting to feel these fundamental fears, what's underneath them. But and it can be intense. It can be really intense, but it's really where you want to go in the end. It can really be the most powerful work to do. Is, what if I'm not good enough? What if I can never please the people that I think I need to please? What if I'm never accepted in the way that I think I need to be accepted? What if I'm, and all of these things, it's not like, it's really to kind of feel into, what am I afraid to feel? What is beneath all of this? Even saying something like feeling into what is it that really triggers us, and then, okay, like, maybe from past traumatic experiences, like what we were talking about earlier, like there's a feeling of unsafeness. Um, so we could even say to ourselves, like, and there's like different stages for this kind of thing. That's why, sometimes the brain retraining stuff is important to, help heal get us out of stuck things, I suppose, but it often quickly turns into another place you can get stuck. But once you realize that you actually want to get in touch with these deeper aspects of yourself, that you realize is it's always there and it's driving our behavior unconsciously. You could say to yourself, like, I'm unsafe. And then what does that feel like? Because we're so afraid of that feeling. A part of us is kind of an identity has formed so that we don't ever have to feel unsafe. But then that's kind of distancing us from feeling authentic what we're feeling. So it's always to go back into the place we don't want to go. So, okay, you know, I can feel this. Maybe it can be uncomfortable. So what does it feel like in my body if I get in touch with that fear of being unsafe, maybe? And okay, I'm unsafe. What does that feel like? So this is kind of like the opposite of a lot of the brain retraining stuff, where you're kind of telling your nervous system, I'm safe, it's okay. And again, as I said, like that's helpful as well. Um, but it's not, sometimes it's not authentic, because now you kind of bypassing these deep emotions by you trying to kind of you're pushing it down again of like, um, there's a feeling, a part of you that wants to feel, that needs to be felt, it needs to be held, that feeling of, okay, I'm unsafe. And then it can get intense, and then you can kind of actively work with that feeling. Okay, there's a part of me I didn't even realize that's, um, this kind of inner child, or these, because that's what it is like these, things happen as we grow up, or whatever, that kind of it impacts our the way our minds work, and then it kind of becomes a part of this whole thing, and we need to acknowledge that that's there in the first place. And then, as I said, it's kind of like an unconscious thing that's affecting everything. But until we actually acknowledge that, we don't even realize what an impact it's playing in everything we're doing and how we're processing everything and all of that. So yeah, like you can combine the two methods, I suppose, of, okay, if I inquire into, like, I'm so afraid of feeling unsafe, or, I mean, it's not even a personal thing, it's like we fundamentally want to feel safe. Um, but getting in touch with that feeling of what does it feel like if I don't feel like that, and then working with that, it's okay, you are safe, um, talking directly to that feeling, that part of us that feels unsafe. So you can kind of inquire a bit to get in touch with that, and then you can kind of then you really use the compassion and the um, that kind of brain retraining technique. So yeah, that's why, just going back, I often get questions about brain retraining courses, and that kind of method, and it's great. Like, I think it's great, but you kind of need to see both sides of it, because I experienced it in a lot of people that I've worked with one on one, or just kind of spoken to on this recovery path, get stuck with the brain retraining, because it does often become like a positive, um, trying to control your experience and turn everything into, um, trying to rewire your brain to only focus on the positive. Obviously, I don't know all the brain retraining courses, but I've just heard a lot of people that kind of get stuck in that place of believing that we shouldn't feel the the difficult stuff, whereas the most powerful approach is when we really realize that it's okay to feel absolutely everything, and especially the stuff we're most afraid to feel. So yeah, that's why I say kind of like a combination of the two, where you try and dig into what you don't want to feel, and then you self-parent that. It's okay. You can be here. That feeling of, whatever, you can be here too. You're safe right now. Because, like, when we know logically that, okay, like, I am actually safe, whatever, I'm sitting in a house or whatever, but let me actually feel into this feeling of unsafeness, just to get in touch with the feeling, um, and then work with that feeling. You don't need to heal it. That's an important thing as well. Is it's like there's nothing to fix. Just allow it to be exactly what it is. Um, you know, I feel whatever. I feel unsafe. Whatever we get in touch with, then we don't need to. Okay, I need to fix this to make me feel safe. No, just whatever it is that we're afraid to feel. These deep fears. Just let it be exactly what it is, and work with whatever comes up. It's okay. You can be here. You can be just as you are. I accept you. Because again, that's kind of what's so stressful for the nervous system and this whole thing is when we're kind of like pushing away something in our experience and saying that it's wrong and it shouldn't be here. Um, always with all of this stuff that we're afraid of, just all of these deep emotions or thoughts, maybe it's thoughts, maybe it's symptoms, just imagine it as a little child that just um, has been cast out because it keeps on being told it's not allowed to be here. Like it's so. Um, Imagine just like try to see it from like this. This can just be really helpful. It's just kind of imagine this. Try to see. Okay, imagine that I was this thing that I don't want to feel, symptom, whatever. Imagine that I was this thing, and I just keep saying to it, "Go away." I don't want you. Um, you're bad. You're wrong. You shouldn't be here. That's kind of what we're saying to a part of ourselves, even if it doesn't seem like that. It's like, oh, it's just like a symptom or whatever. It's something that's arising in our experience, and it's kind of in some way, associated with a part of ourselves, um, and we're saying to it, no, 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 and that's why just whatever comes up, working with it, letting it be just what it is so. Yeah, like just to go back to what we're saying about the nervous system and like what's driving this whole thing is like it's so stressful on the body and the nervous system when we're telling a part of ourselves like no, you shouldn't be here. Um, no, you're wrong. But that's the thing is once we do this kind of work, it's like even that part of us that's afraid to feel, that's saying no to everything, even that can be accepted. So, and sometimes that's where we have to start. So like, okay, yeah, I don't want to feel this. There's a part of me that's saying no, this is wrong, this is bad. Um, okay, that's kind of fear. That's a part of me that I've kind of developed to um, cope or whatever. And I appreciate the role that that's played for me. Um, but right now, and it's okay, you can be here. Again, we're not having to get rid of anything. There's nothing that's wrong. Um, if you work with your direct experience like this, it's incredibly simple. You can just sit, and especially if things are feeling tough, if you're going through a tough day and you just don't know where to start, symptoms, emotions, thoughts, you just feel like you're lost and you just don't know where to turn and just nothing's going right or whatever, you just feel like you've lost the path or whatever, then just keep it simple. Sit and open up some, often it can help to just relax a little bit. So, maybe like a couple of minutes of just feeling into the body, relaxing any areas of tension, taking a few deep breaths, maybe following the breath for a while, just feeling into what it feels like to breathe, and then asking yourself, what am I afraid of? What don't I want to feel right now? And what if I actually just met that thing that I'm so afraid of, that I don't want to feel? What if I just tried this, just as an experiment? Um, Not expecting anything to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but just as a change, this thing that I'm so used to pushing away, what if I just met it with the most love that I could? What if I actually just opened up all the space in my experience and just said, it's not like, oh, I'm physically opening up space, just saying to this thing, like, you know what, there's actually so much space here. I don't need to control you. I don't need to fix you. I don't need to get rid of you. This, whatever it is that I'm afraid to feel, What if I actually just allowed it? Let me just see. Let me just see what happens if I just let it be here. Does the world explode? Because often that's what the mind will say. Like whatever I do, and we're not even kind of aware of that, but there's just such a strong sense of I can't feel that, I can't feel that, I don't want to feel that. But let's see what actually happens if I just meet it with love. Okay, I'm afraid of that. That's okay. But what actually happens if I give it some space? If I, it's okay. What actually happens? Just keep it simple. It's not um, whatever comes up, and then a confusion. Oh, I don't know if I'm doing this right. Is this going to help me to recover? Surely this isn't going to help me to recover. Okay, great. This makes sense, but actually, I got to fix my symptoms. I got to do this. Okay, but what if I just allow that? Like if I, this is where it can be helpful to kind of um, even acknowledge what are you feeling. Like all the time I talk about, like you don't need labels. You want to be in direct experience, but sometimes to kind of disidentify from the thoughts, it can be helpful. Like, oh, that's still a bit of doubt. I'm doubting. Am I doing this right? Surely this isn't. It's not as simple. Okay, that's doubt. What if it's okay to feel doubt? What if I don't have to believe the doubt, but I don't have to get rid of it either? There's enough space here for whatever wants to be here. There's a part of us that's never rejecting experience, and this is kind of what we're practicing is like, okay, actually, whatever's arising, there's already space for it. But what if I don't push or pull on it and just, you know, give it some space, give it some compassion, give it some love, and see what happens if I just explore it a bit. Interesting, what don't I actually want to feel this? Can I actually get a little bit more in touch with this? And again, not like as just from a curious perspective, like not trying to force anything to happen. And then whatever comes up, okay, you can be here too. Feeling of, oh, I'm surely not doing this right. It's not going away. Okay, that's a bit of resistance. I'm trying to get rid of this. I don't want this to be here. Okay, what does that feel like? Yeah, and for me, often just the question that would always help, especially if I was like sitting down, and I still use this. For me, it's such a powerful way to get in touch with what I don't want to feel. So if I'm sitting, and I feel okay, I don't feel like sitting anymore. Like it's been 10 minutes, and this is a bit uncomfortable. What, in my experience what is the feeling that's making me want to stop? So it's like okay, like you're sitting, and then you want to stop and go and do something else. You want to stop and distract yourself. What is what don't I want to feel? Like in that moment, there's something we don't want to feel any longer because we want to get up and go distract because it's something we don't want to feel. So, like getting really curious, like where is this? What don't I want to feel? Why can't I just sit here a little bit longer? And then as soon as you kind of get in touch with what that is, I mean, and it's not a conceptual thing that you're looking for. I mean, yeah, maybe there's a thought there that you don't want to feel or something like that, but often it will just take me into a direct feeling that I didn't want to feel, like some sensation that's uncomfortable. Um, and and then it's actually quite feels good to once I can really okay, that's uncomfortable. Okay, I'm resisting that. That's fine. I'm resisting that. But what does it actually feel like? What am I actually resisting? It can feel quite good to actually get in direct contact with that. Um, so that can be a really simple inquiry that can what don't I want to feel? What is making me want to get up right now? But then always notice if there's like a hidden agenda while we're doing this of okay, I'm doing this because okay, if I ask this question, what don't I want to feel like? Then this is gonna make my unpleasant experience go away. Oh, okay, that's some more resistance there. That's a part of me that's still trying to push away something. That's like, I'm doing this to get rid of something. Okay, but what is it that I don't want to feel? What is it that I want to go away? What does that feel like? And if you kind of, you don't have to make an answer yourself. Like, that's the thing with the mind, is it can always feel like, oh, but like, what's the answer? Am I doing this right? Um, just ask the question and then see in your experience what's there. What am I afraid to feel? Just kind of drop it there. What am I afraid to feel? You don't need to make the answer. It's not like a question on an exam, because that's the thing, is we kind of we use the mind in this way, and then we kind of don't know how to not use the mind in this way. It's like we ask ourselves a question, and then we often feel like we need to come up with a conceptual answer to it. But these kind of things, the most powerful way to do it is asking the question and then seeing what comes up in your experience. What don't I want to feel? And then just let it reveal itself. You just kind of, that's what inquiry is. It's like what? It's like a question to take you into your experience. So yeah, I mean that's a simple way to, especially if you're feeling a bit stuck in the moment. It's a great way to do it. Or you don't want to meditate, you don't want to sit, you just want to distract. What don't I want to feel? What is driving this? What does it feel like? And what if it's, again, all of this, if you give it compassion, you give it love, give it space, you can't go wrong. That's the beauty of it. The mind can be like, oh, but surely I can get this wrong. What if I'm doing this wrong? Okay, doubt, fear, whatever, that's fine. That's fine too. There's nothing that's not accepted. Because it kind of stops that. I mean, it stops the ego mind, because that's there to solve problems. So now when we're saying whatever comes up is okay, it's it really kind of breaks down that mechanism a bit, because we're always trying to fix something. Okay, I must do this, I must do that, I must make sure this doesn't happen. This separate self mind, kind of this ego, this controller, this mind that's running all 24/7, is looking for something to do. It's like, I must make sure that this doesn't happen, I must make sure that this does happen. And what if for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, when you sit and do this kind of practice, what if there's nothing that's wrong? What if whatever comes up is okay? It kind of stops the mind, because then the mind can give you something. Well, this or this or this. Well, what if that's okay too? What if thoughts are okay? Okay, I should be meditating, and now I'm having this thought, and now I'm having that thought. Okay, that's fine. There's thoughts right now. Okay, I was lost in thought for a bit. Okay, well, that's just what happened. Okay, I'm upset that I got lost in thought. I, okay, like I'm supposed to be okay with everything that's happening. Well, now I'm lost in thought. Now I'm upset. I shouldn't be upset. Okay, well, look at that. I'm upset. Like, I'm upset and I'm lost in thought. That's what's happening. Um, and eventually, the more you do this kind of thing, it will really just, the mind can kind of slow down, because it's like, oh, that whole driving force of the mind was like, there's a problem to solve. There's something that I should be doing. There's something that I shouldn't be feeling. There's something that I need to stop from happening, or there's something that I need to make happen. There's something that I need to fix. I need to, if these symptoms come up, I need to do that. I need to not feel this. I need to push away these symptoms. And that's what's keeping the whole thing going. So then when we're like, the more we do this, the more we can kind of get in touch with this. Like, it can all just settle down. It's like, okay, just start with what you don't want to feel, and what if that's okay? And then the next thing comes up. What if that's okay? So yeah, it's that simple. But it's simple, but it's difficult, because the mind is so strong. The habit force of this mind that we use 24/7, of these, whatever way you want to talk about it, these like these um, analytical patterns of I need to do this or do that, or analyze. I need to analyze my experience to figure out what's safe and what's not safe to feel, and what I should feel and what I shouldn't feel. It's strong. It's really strong. So the more you kind of do this work, you kind of retraining the brain. So like all of this kind of stuff is brain retraining. There's like meditating is brain retraining. The acceptance work I talk about is brain retraining. So yeah, I mean, literally everything you're doing is kind of just yeah. So that kind of thing is really just like the more you kind of do it, it's like the more you're retraining your mind that it's okay, I can trust experience, and that kind of breaks down this whole thing that was driving this stress response in the body, because it's all built on a feeling of I need to control, but I can't control, and that's really stressful. And that's one of the components. There's a lot of different things that can be going on here, but if you can get to the core of that, it can really change things. So yeah, I guess, I mean, that's what it's all about in the end. That's kind of what it's all about. German side, sorry, I saw your comment, but I was just busy talking. Thanks, Carl. I have also noticed that the illness is building my character in a positive way. Yeah, exactly. I would also say like that's a massive kind of thing we can open up to, which can help so much on this journey, is what happens when I stop fighting this and actually open up to what I could be learning. What is this teaching me? That is such a powerful. It's again, it's not like a positive thinking hat that we need to put on. It's like, okay, I'm gonna see everything in a positive light only. Like there's a lot of like those that kind of stuff can be helpful at a certain time, like absolutely. But again, we can often get stuck in that perspective. But this perspective of just this is really tough. This is not what I want to be happening right now. Often that's why something is so tough, because we don't want it to be happening. I mean, that's all it's really about in the end, is if we really ask ourselves, why is this such a problem? Because I want something else to be happening. So that's fine. Okay. It's not what we want to be happening right now. But what is this teaching me? And again, you don't need to come up with a conceptual answer. I mean, sometimes you can dig into it a bit, you can do some journaling on it or something like that. But to just kind of open up to that perspective of maybe not fighting this so much, of what if, what if this is, because it is, I can tell you that whatever's happening to you, that's all you need to feel right now. What is this present moment of things not going the way I want them to? What is it showing me? It's like, okay, like look, there's a pattern of trying to control experience. This I'm actually suffering so much right now because I want things to be another way. So what if I kind of let go of that for a little bit? And the way to let go of that again can be through acknowledgement of that in itself. Like often that's all we need to do. Acknowledge that, oh, this is so uncomfortable right now. This is such a problem right now because I want things to be another way. And when we just notice that, I don't want whatever's happening right now to be happening. Acknowledging that, and then okay, well, this is what's happening right now. So what is it showing me? Um, what could this be showing me about myself? It can be really helpful. Stop fighting this has been one of the most difficult things about long COVID for me. I think once I let go uh, is when I notice some improvement, which seems counterintuitive. Not that I have completely let go. It's exactly what it is, man. Like for for me as well, it was like this thing had to keep on beating me up until I just had to let go of this part of me that was trying to fix everything. and like I know how to fix this. I'm gonna figure this out. Eventually, I had to accept that I didn't know. That I didn't know. That's such a difficult thing to accept, but it's such an important thing to accept that maybe you just don't know. Maybe that this is just too much for you to figure out yourself. But, what if you just let go and trust? Um, Trust that maybe this is showing you something, you know? And it can be so difficult, and that's why I say it's not too, like, don't invalidate your feelings. Like, if this is really tough for you right now, start by acknowledging that. Start by acknowledging that. Like, I don't want to let go, or like, stop fighting this. Okay, acknowledge there's a part of me that doesn't want to stop fighting this. Like, what's that about? What am I holding on to here? What am I afraid to let go of? That kind of stuff, what can really show us what's keeping us stuck, you know. Um, Again, the mind wants to cling on to, like when I start talking about this kind of stuff, of like just see what's there and acknowledge it and let it. The mind wants, like, no, like, but what about this? But what about that? It's what's it clinging on to, It wants to cling on some kind of control of. Um, so that's what it's all about. Is like eventually when you actually just, what if, what if this is kind of beyond me, and that's okay. Just acknowledging that, okay, this, what I don't know right now. Like for me, like I remember like trying to figure out exactly the right diet for, like I will figure out the right diet until I recover because I saw some people recovering from diet. So awesome. The mind clings onto this. I'm going to figure this out. And then it just got worse and worse and worse. The more I fixated on this, the more like, okay, I will get rid of these symptoms. The symptoms got worse because I was creating such a strong belief in my mind. It's like when a symptom came up, oh, okay, it's still there, it's not gone. I need to get rid of this symptom. And then eventually I couldn't do it. Like whatever diet I tried, however perfectly I tried to pace my day, however, I couldn't do it. And eventually I just had to realize that, like, I can't, I don't know how to make this recovery happen. And that's why it can be so helpful to like like that's why I kind of shared my story of having been through this, to realize that it's okay to feel that, because you know we feel like we shouldn't feel that, because like, oh, if I accept that I can't do this, then I'm never going to recover. But I'm telling you, like, that was such an important place to get to for me, was to not, because there's like a real difference between strongly clinging on to the belief and the identity that I can't recover, I'm not going to recover. Like that's what are we afraid to let go of there, Because once we're open to, oh, I can actually recover, well, now I have to face that shit, because for me, the reason I was clinging on to that belief I can't recover, because then it gave me an escape from having to face the stuff I didn't want to face. I didn't know this at the time, like this was all unconscious, but looking back, I can see that's what that was about. But anyways, like to get to that place where I'm like, I don't know. Like I can't know the way out of this. I've tried everything and I'm stuck. Um, and then once you accept that, things can, the resources will come. Then I found this recovery story and this recovery story, and starting to just kind of things starting to click into place, and finding the right kind of stuff. But sometimes we have to get to that place where we just realize that I don't know, and that's okay. And often it needs to keep happening. Like, we'll make some improvement, and then we'll get to a place where we feel like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm feeling lost again. Like, okay, right now, I just feel like I don't know. And there's nothing wrong with that. That can be a great place to get to. I mean, it doesn't feel great at all, but it's an important place, is to acknowledge that we don't, we're always trying to convince ourselves that, no, 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 like, I know, like, I'm going to figure this out or whatever. But letting go into the unknown is powerful. Um, just accepting, I don't know. Um, and, maybe I can't know exactly how to do this. And that's kind of letting go of that control that was keeping us stuck. So yeah, letting go is a huge part of this, and maybe I don't know how to let go. I don't know how to stop fighting this. Okay, stop fighting this. This is too difficult for me. I don't know. Okay, but also we can kind of hear this and try to like shortcut it. So like, okay, well, what if I just say I don't know, then maybe um, you know I don't have to face what I don't want to face. But that's why I say like the trick is really just be honest with yourself as much as you can and keep like coming back to that because like, but what is really going on here? What am I really like? Am I being really honest here, or is there what hidden agenda is going on here? Like, why am I saying this? Oh, okay, I'm actually saying this because I don't want to feel something. I'm actually saying this because I'm hoping that it will lead to this, or I'm hoping that this will make that happen. Okay, well, that's fine, but just acknowledge that that's what's going on. That's all you got to do. Just be honest with yourself because that's one of the things that keeps us stuck is we like deceiving ourselves all the time. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna like pretend I'm doing this, but actually deep down I'm hoping that this will happen. Um, and but then we're kind of like lying to ourselves. So to just be like, oh, okay, like I'm trying to surrender so that I don't have to face the stuff that I'm really afraid to face. But what it's actually about is facing that stuff. Like real surrender is feeling the stuff that I don't want to face and not knowing what it's going to be like. Really going to the place that I'm most afraid to feel and not knowing what's going to happen. That's real surrender. Not, okay, I don't know what to do now, something needs to shift. But again, just be honest with yourself. Like, okay, look, like you don't need to judge yourself. Okay, look, there's a part of me that's afraid. Is afraid to fully let go. And so a part of me is trying to, bypass some stuff. Um, okay, that's just what's happening. Okay, I'm afraid. That's fine. It's okay. You can be afraid. Or I don't want to do the work. I'm resisting something. But then just keep digging in. Like this will take you where you need to go if you just keep being honest with yourself. It will take you down. Okay, I'm afraid of facing that. Okay, well, why am I afraid of facing that? Just be honest with yourself. Okay, I don't know. Okay, just keep coming back to that. Um, yeah. And once you kind of get the sense of this, then you start to just trust. You trust, okay, I don't know, but what if I just trust that this is what I need to be feeling right now? And then what comes up is like, oh, how can I trust this? Doubt. That. Okay, well, what if that's just what I need to be feeling right now? So yeah, that was yeah, that's what it's all about. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if there's any questions. I'm gonna probably log off soon. It's pretty late here. It's like 1:45 in the morning, and I've got to still pack for Europe tomorrow morning. I mean, I've done some of my packing, but I've got to pack properly. So yeah. Thank you, JD. Yeah, really looking forward to it. Going to be nice to see some of Europe, and yeah, looking forward to the adventure. It's very I don't have much planned. I'm literally kind of just jumping into the unknown, like I talk about. Um, yeah, a friend kind of invited me to go visit him in Croatia, and yeah, I was like, awesome. I've been wanting to go travel, so that can kind of be my entry point, and from there, I'm just going to see what happens. So yeah, German side, I'm going to starting in Croatia, and then um, I'm staying with a friend for 2 weeks there, and then um, I have no idea what I'm going to do next, but I want to try and hang around in Europe for as long as I can. I think I've got like 3 months, so just gonna see what happens. Open to the adventure. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I might try and bounce around Europe a bit. I might. Um, yeah, I will try to make some travel videos. I I haven't had Instagram for a long time. Like I just when I was going through all of this, I deleted Instagram, but I actually recently started an account again. So I'll probably put some stuff on there. So I'd literally just linked it to my YouTube. It's like under my about. If anybody wants to see some of my traveling stuff, I'm sure I'll put it on Instagram. And then maybe I don't know. I'll do a live stream from somewhere in Europe or something like that. But I will share some of my stuff, so for sure. Um, Alex Demiski. So for external stresses where there is no clear solution, the same letting go applies. Yeah, absolutely. Often external stresses, as tough as they are, they can be a great way to bring us into contact with these kind of feelings. So, you know, that's why, yeah, we can do this kind of work, and then when something external happens that brings up the stuff in us, it's like, okay, initially it's like, oh, this is bad. Um, and then, okay, well, this is bringing up exactly what I need to see in me right now. So, you know, what happens if I just accept that, you know, like a great piece of advice that I heard a while back from Sam Harris that really worked for me was realizing that, when some external stressor happens, just be honest with yourself. If there's something that you can do about it, then do it. Like if it's whatever, like do what you need to do about it. Because again, we can sometimes kind of avoid doing something if we know it's what we need to do, but it's uncomfortable. Um, then that can be, we can kind of use letting go as like a bypass to that. I mean, you can never go wrong with just allowing yourself to feel what you need to feel, but then also just be honest with yourself. Is there something I can do here? But like just simple, like don't overthink it. Like, okay, yeah, sure, like this thing is stressful, but I know that I actually just kind of need to do this. Okay, then do that. But at the same time, you can acknowledge, like what is this bringing up in me that I don't want to feel, and what if it's okay that that is here? And this whole, yeah, you can go back and watch this, like this whole thing that I've just been talking about. You can apply that exact thing for any external stressor, because it's the external stress is what brings up inside of us, but what we're actually fighting against is what it brings up inside of us. So you could say it's not actually about the external stressor at all. Sure, the external stress is what triggers this, but the whole internal turmoil, the suffering that results from that is what we're fighting with inside of us. So it's exactly exactly what I'm talking about here. It's like something happens the way we don't want it to happen. Um, if we're honest with ourselves, like, why is this a problem? Okay, it's not happening the way I expect it to happen. It's not happening the way I think it should happen. It doesn't feel like what should be happening. Okay, what does that feel like if something doesn't feel like the way I should be happening? It's going to feel uncomfortable in the body. So what does that feel like? What don't I want to feel here? And then sure, if there's nothing I can do about it, then that's perfect. Then you can just do this. Because often that's the thing. It's like it's out of our control. So just feel what's here. Um, and again, even if there is something we can do about it, still just feel what's here, and then do what you need to do about it, and feel, why am I afraid to do that? Um, so yeah, definitely. And as I said, those kind of things can be a blessing in disguise. Like these external things that we think should be happening, especially once we start to realize that we need to do this kind of work, it can be a great way to bring it out. Like, especially if you feel like we made a little bit of progress in this, and then something happens that really triggers us. Like, oh shit, there's still, like, can bring out stuff. Like sometimes we need that later on to be like, oh, look at that, you know, that actually upset me. Interesting. What's this about? There's still a feeling of I want things not to be this way, and that's fine. Again, like we don't need to judge ourselves. And then if there is judging, then noticing that. Oh shit, I'm judging myself. Okay, there's judging happening. Like, as soon as we start to just notice acknowledge what's here, let it in, and then we can work from there. Um, and then, yeah, we get lost in thought, we get lost in reaction to thought, we get lost in reaction to sensation, and then just notice that. Oh, okay, I was reacting. Okay, I'm upset that I was reacting. Maybe not gonna be so calm about it. Oh, fuck, I was reacting. Fuck. Oh, shit, okay, look, I don't need to be so upset with myself. There's frustration. Okay, what does it feel like if I can't meditate the way I think I should? That kind of thing. So, for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, it can be really helpful. So, yeah, you're welcome, Alex. Okay, awesome. Yeah, thanks for the live stream. Great for integration. Yeah, you're welcome, Jed. Yeah, I enjoyed it. This was a nice one. It's great for me too. I enjoy talking through some of this stuff. Nice. Wish you great fun in Europe. Thank you, German side. Yeah, yeah. Really looking forward to it. All right, everybody. I will. Yeah, probably next time you hear from me, I'll be in Europe. So, good luck, everybody. Thank you for joining the live stream, everybody who popped in and out. And yeah, as always, I'll put this up on the channel. So anybody who wants to rewatch it, there's a lot of like if you ever want to. Yeah, I mean, I really kind of just covered all of the emotion work here. So as I was saying, this is it. Like that's the kind of the whole deal. But yeah, it's like just keep coming back to that kind of stuff. So yeah, awesome. All right, have a great evening, day, where everybody is, and good luck with whatever comes up. Just remember that it will get tough sometimes, but that's what you need to be experiencing then. And if you're struggling, that's absolutely okay. This can be really tough sometimes, but it will pass. Like that is one of the most helpful things to remember when things are so tough. This won't be like this forever. I can promise you that. And the more that you kind of just are willing to feel like something only really sticks around for a long time when we just keep on pushing it away, keep on fighting against it. So this will pass. So what if I actually just open to it a bit? Yeah, just a little something that's so helpful when things are tough because we can get so caught up in the mind like, shit, what if I'm stuck like this forever? Okay, but this will pass. So yeah, whatever you're going through, it will pass. It won't be like that forever. Things will fluctuate. There will be ups. There will be downs. But the more honest you are with yourself, the more accepting you are, the more just okay. I'll feel what I need to feel. Yeah, you'll be on the right path. So just remember that. I know it can be tough, but just you guys are doing great. Everyone's doing great, and everything's gonna be okay. All right, lots of love to everyone.